Good evening. Welcome to America's Heroes Group Roundtable live stream digital media show. I'm your host, U.S. Army Combat Medic and Flight Surgeon Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold, U.S. Army National Guard retired. We have a special panelist with us tonight, and I want all the veterans to listen very, very closely. This is a veterans-owned bank that is in existence. So Michael Gulyas is a senior vice president with the Federal Savings Bank, which is one of the largest privately held, veteran-owned and operated banks in the country. He has helped thousands of families achieve the dream of home ownership over his 14-year career. So, I'm just blown away about this whole concept, Michael. But welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and thank you for the very gracious introduction.
But tell me about the bank, how it started, what its purpose is.
Yeah, we were founded by an Army tank commander. I believe he has served some time in the Gulf War I and a little before that. About 15 years ago, after having a privately held, smaller organization in Chicago, he decided to branch out and found the Federal Savings Bank. And now, really with a mission to serve veterans. The VA lending product is near and dear to our hearts. It's, I would guess, probably 75% of the business that we do. And we are a federally chartered bank, so we have a national reach. So we are helping veterans all across the country. But it's been really wonderful, and we do billions of dollars in home lending a year. But really, the veteran across all our programs, the VA loan is the core product that we offer.
Wow, and it does a lot to help these families. I mean, to stabilize them. We have veterans who are leaving military service at the after retirement. You have people who are coming back into the mainstream after conflicts that you were mentioning. The wars, but we have OEF and OIF. Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom. Those things were going on in the background, and we always had a problem with reintegration of our troops back into society. So this actually gives them a place to go.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about the business that I'm in is really the education piece of it. Yeah. And full disclosure, I haven't served myself. I'm not exactly sure what type of education they get when they separate, but I can tell you that we spend a good amount of time educating our veterans about that VA home loan benefit and what it could mean to them. An example of that may be, gosh, I'm stationed over in Germany and I have a wife with a child back home and they're living in an apartment, the lease is coming up. You actually could use your VA benefit to purchase a primary residence for your family back here in the States, even though you might be stationed overseas. So it's little things like that where it becomes really powerful,
Yes. Yeah, I want to correct one thing you said. You said you haven't served, but you haven't served in a uniform, but you have served our veterans.
Thank you, sir. That's very gracious of you.
That's a very, very powerful statement. They really sometimes need some real direction. When I was in the military, we really didn't do much about talking about the afterlife. What are you going to do if you once you get out the military? I was always dual role, so I was in the private sector and in the military at the same time, Army National Guard. So I always was walking with two. But there were people who were in the National Guard, that was their life. There were people who were in active duty Army, and that was their life. And they moved from place to place, so they had to really readjust and acclimate themselves to a new environment. So they were trying to get over culture shock, when they're leaving the military. And there was always mention of things that were there, but you really had to be motivated to want to go and learn about those benefits. You would get a packet and it had a couple of paragraphs. So there's this program there, but that was about as far as you scratched into the document.
Kind of jumping onto that point, The other thing is we get a lot of veterans that come back to us many years after they've separated from service and go, hey, I served in Vietnam, or maybe I served in Gulf War One. Can I still use this benefit?
Yeah.
And it is truly a lifetime benefit. It doesn't matter if you've separated day one or you're 30 years on. That benefit is there waiting for you.
Yes, and that's a really important message to get out there, because people sort of turn around and they wonder, well, I just don't have the wherewithal or the required assets or money to actually get something done, like buying a house, or putting my family in a safer environment, or those kinds of things. Whereas this offers a bridge. So the banking process itself, how does the bank work itself? Can you have bank accounts there? Is it more of a lending institution? How is it structured?
Yeah, so we are an FDIC insured bank. We do hold deposits. We have a balance sheet that we lend on. But really, first and foremost, we are a mortgage originator. That's what
Okay,
we
yeah.
do. We eat, breathe, and sleep mortgages.
Mhm.
Um, to take a step back real quick, you were kind of describing how the VA loan um, acts as a bridge, right, or
Yeah,
as a benefit program.
yeah.
I would love to expand on that piece for a second because I
Oh,
think
sure.
it's really powerful. So I think let's describe what the VA loan is for a second. What it really is the United States government saying to the bank, "Hey, this is a benefit program for our veterans, right, and our active duty service members. We want you to make a loan at 100% loan to value. We want you to offer it on exceptionally good terms compared to what they might be able to find in the marketplace. And because it's a benefit program and because we're going to guarantee that loan for you, you're going to open your credit box up a little bit wider than you normally would, right? So we'll take a little bit lower of a credit score. We'll take a little bit higher of a debt to income ratio on that. And we'll do it, like I said, at 100% LTV because of that government guarantee. So I think, Dr. Arnold, you hit the nail right on the head. It is a tremendous springboard for helping veterans kind of achieve financial freedom and their piece of the American dream with the VA loan.
Oh, yeah, phenomenal. Maybe tell us, I know you can't use names and all that. We have all kinds of HIPAA requirements and everything else. I'm very familiar with that. But, what are some of the success stories, that you have where, the bank actually helped people to move forward?
Oh boy. All right. Let's see if I can pluck some here out of thin air. Um, I'll give you a few examples. I have had clients that um, legally and very strategically have utilized that VA loan benefit to help. Um, you know, uh, hey, I'll give you an example. So they're active duty, they're stationed at their base, and instead of living in base housing, they now go out and they buy that primary residence, right? Uh, and then 3 years later, they get stationed someplace else, and it's halfway across the country. Well, they rent out that primary residence to the next guy up, and now you can utilize their VA home loan benefit again in some cases to now buy their next primary residence, right? So
Yeah.
it's not only about maybe that one home that veteran has bought, but it's also about the next home,
Mhm.
and now he's got or she has two
Mhm.
properties underneath their belt under very favorable terms.
Yes.
Um, Another great example would be really kind of like what I had talked about. I have had a veteran who was stationed overseas. Boy, I really need to help, find housing for my family. I can't move into it for a year. I know that that's kind of a requirement. I have to make it my primary residence. Well, as long as your spouse or your child is going to occupy that home as your primary residence, that fulfills the occupancy requirement according to the VA. Where a different loan program may not have that flexibility. What we
Mhm.
do a lot of is, and not just on the purchase side, well, it's a tremendous benefit in a purchase transaction. On the refinancing end of things, it's a tremendous benefit as well. So you may have someone that has bought 4 or 5 years ago. Perhaps they have a really fantastic interest rate, but life happens. They need $30,000, $40,000 for whatever, right?
Right.
The
Right.
VA loan will allow you to, take out up to 100% of the value of your home in a cash out transaction for perhaps when you really need it, which again is not available in the marketplace with just about any other product that I'm aware of.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very powerful option that you end up having. Yeah, because many times people get into financial, need and that kind of thing, and that could be the saving grace really for them to remain stable, and keep their family stable. And do you ever get involved with business loans at all, for veteran startups and that kind of thing, or is that something sort of outside?
We do have a commercial product at the bank. Property, yes. Hey,
Yes.
I want to go out and I want to open up a whatever, a strip mall that I want to
Yeah.
acquire,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Or a
Right.
big multi-commercial building.
Right.
Yes. Um, hey, I'm looking for, XYZ money to open up my accountancy agency. Not really. We're more property based.
Yes, property. Right. Sure. Sure. So it's
Yeah.
really the physical structure you'll be working out of, which is really part, 90% of the battle sometimes, to have
Yeah,
a
it is. Yeah. I would say our bread and butter is 1 to 4 unit residential property.
right.
If you have 5+ unit commercial loans, we'd absolutely, would love that. But we are largely a residential lender.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that First of all, where can people go? I'll ask you this again to get involved with your bank to find out more about it.
Yeah, if you just Google Mike Gulyas, the Federal Savings Bank, my webpage will pop right up. You'll have my direct contact information there. Feel free to contact me at 312-738-8464. But again, Mike Gulyas at the Federal Savings Bank, and you'll be able to visit my webpage.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever get involved? Does the bank ever get involved in infrastructure projects or anything like that? Or is that something? Uh,
A little bit beyond our scope, or not that I'm aware of.
yeah.
I will tell you that we've certainly participated in programs where we're building housing for veterans and things of that nature.
Ah,
I do know that we're pretty frequent contributors to Wounded Warriors,
oh, yes. Yes.
and um, I I think one of the ways that we really, again, staying in our wheelhouse, right,
Right. Sure.
look to serve veterans is we have some pretty very expanded programs. So there's the VA loan,
Mhm.
which is an extremely wide set of guidelines that you have to follow. Um, but then banks will kind of impose overlays onto that program, right? So one veteran may call XYZ Bank and be told, "Gosh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You have a 680 credit score. We only take 700 because that's their overlay, right?" In many cases, depending upon the program, we'll go to all the way down as low as 500 credit score on a VA loan. Now, there's a lot of caveats there. You've got to put 10% down on the product. 580 and above is really kind of the sweet spot
Mhm.
for being able to obtain financing. But in that way, in pushing the credit box as far as we can, we're trying to serve as many veterans as we can.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And their families, so we always think about, just veterans, but they have spouses and children and grandchildren. And,
Yeah.
and that allows them to reintegrate into community life and not have to worry about, moving from place to place and, having temporary housing. It allows them to stabilize enough to uh, ensure that their uh, job situation is also secure, that they are able to go to back to home and then go to work, not worrying about, where the family is and what's going on with them.
Well, there's so much stability that owning your home brings. You know, y-
So,
by and large, you know what your monthly payment's going to be month in, month out. Yes, taxes and insurance go up. That'll be eternal, but you pretty much know what that payment is on a 30-year fixed. you can be a member of your community. You can build relationships, long-lasting relationships with your neighbors who all have that pride of home ownership in common. Um, and I think knowing that you have your own piece of the pie is very, very critical to you know uh, being an active member of this country.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything online? I mean, do you offer sort of informational materials for people to learn? Because a lot of people don't have the financial knowledge or the wherewithal, and I guess they can come in and sit down and speak to your bankers. So,
Yeah. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Um,
mhm,
the best thing that you can do is if you're interested in any type of mortgage product, is reach out to your banker, someone who has experience, who knows the product that you're looking for. And you may not know that until you start talking to them, right? But you want to talk to someone that has a vested interest in what you have to say and is willing to educate you about the product that you're thinking about applying for. And I can't tell you, the earlier that you have that conversation in your home buying process or your refinancing journey, the much better off you're going to be, because a good mortgage banker will never tell you no.
mm,
They'll tell you, hey, we can't do this right now for X, Y, and Z reason, but if you fix this, come back to me in 6 months, and we
mm,
absolutely can make this happen for you, right? They'll give you a plan. And
mm,
I not to put myself at all on the same page with you, but kind of like medicine, I think you
sure,
can drive yourself crazy by Googling, what that rash is on your arm, and you show up to the
sure,
doctor and it's no big deal.
right,
It's kind of the same thing with home financing. I talk to a lot of clients that are like, oh gosh, Mike, I'm never going to be able to buy a home.
right.
This happened or that happened. And when you really take a look at it, most problems are usually pretty easy to fix. And if that person's committed, you can set them on the right path.
Yeah, because there's a when it comes down to finances, people sometimes, and especially for people in the military, because military people, have been trained to say, well, I'm taking care of everything myself. I have everything under my control. I try to, make sure everything is regimented and I can actually do something. But when it comes to the financial side of things, there's a fear of not knowing something or, appearing weak in that sense of, sort of being fearful of revealing that I need help. that, you know,
To steal another doctor analogy,
okay.
and I'll change the name, right? But I had a very dear friend come to me for a home loan some years ago, and I won't even mention it. And he's like, boy, I'm a little nervous. We've been friends forever, and this is a good friend of mine, right?
Yeah.
My credit's not so good. And I say, hey, look, I'm kind of like the doctor, right? I've seen it 1,000 times. I'm going to forget about it when we walk out of the office. All I have is a vested interest in trying to make sure that you're set up for success as much as you possibly can be, So
Right.
um, have those conversations early, have them often, and be an open book. Ju- um, we can overcome just about anything if we know about it, and we can tell you how to fix it. But what oftentimes kills deals is that 11th hour. Oh, I forgot to tell my banker that I had $1,000 in child support. Or, oh, I bought that car 2 days before closing. I won't tell them. They'll never find out.
Right.
It's those things that tend to kind of derail the project. But we're here to help.
But where's your bank where are you located?
Our corporate headquarters is here in Chicago, Illinois,
Yes. Okay, great.
where we have some loan production offices that are around the country.
Ah,
Um, but again, we are based here in Chicago.
oh, fantastic. Yeah. And give that site again, the website people can go to.
Yep, just Google Mike Gulyas, the Federal Savings Bank, and I'll pop up. Or just go to thefederalsavingsbank.com and search my name. And because we are a federally chartered bank, we are lending in all 50 states. So from Alaska to Maine, we're here.
Oh, so you can get me a house in Hawaii now. That sounds better.
I love lending in Hawaii. I would love to sell you a $1.2 million, 900 square
Oh,
foot
yeah.
home that's on the beach.
Sticker
You
shock.
know.
But
Actually, fair amount of business in California, Texas, but
yeah.
really all over. I don't know if there's a state we haven't done a loan in at this point.
Oh, fantastic. So, what would you advise someone to do? Because, people actually are in existing mortgages as well. And, some of them are in bottom up, mortgages or upside down mortgages. Um, and they are trying to figure out how to get out of the mess that they're in. They may be at very high interest rate loans. They don't even realize that they have the military benefit. What would you advise them to do?
I think not to be overly redundant, right? But speak
Yes.
with a professional as soon as you can,
Yeah.
and get some good advice, because I, I think that's really important about mortgages. We are a bit of a commodity, right? Someone might be at X rate, and the guy down the street is at Y rate. Um, but it's so much deeper than that, because it's so unique to the individual person that's applying. If I were to show you what the pricing grid looks like,
Mhm.
it's a million different pricing adjusters for all sorts of the difference between 739 and 740 FICO or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So I think the message I'm trying to drive home is every situation is unique. Just because your neighbor got X doesn't mean that you're going to get X, and vice versa.
Right.
And just because your neighbor can't do anything doesn't mean that you can't do anything, even though you think you're in relatively the same position. You might not be. So definitely consult with an expert, and definitely get your options.
Mhm.
Um, Now, you had mentioned being upside down, and being in a high interest rate. One of the great benefits of the VA loan program is that you qualify for an interest rate reduction loan, which is called an EARL.
Mhm.
And that's probably even the bigger benefit than being able to buy a home with no money down,
Mhm.
is that
Mhm.
with no appraisal, no income verification, once you already have a VA loan, as long as we're saving you at least a half a point, and there's some other qualifications that go with that as well,
Mhm.
you can refinance that and reduce your interest rate, um, which is a tremendous benefit. No income verification, no appraisal. Uh, it's about as easy to qualify as you can be once you're already in the program, right? So if you have a VA loan and you're looking to lower your rate, that would be the first product that I would look at.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And because I always hear this thing, the word collateral, sometimes you need collateral to make purchases and that kind of thing. Does that play any role here at all? Or is that just,
The VA program, largely no, right? Again, there's no appraisal with that particular product, because we're just lowering the interest rate, and the VA thinks, hey, we already are responsible for this mortgage, so if we can reduce your monthly payment and make it easier for you to pay, then less risk of default, right?
right.
On a cash out transaction, that's a little bit different. You are going to have to get an appraisal on that property, and whatever the total loan is, at least be 100% of that.
Yes. Oh, great. Yeah, because so give the website one more time, because I want people to really take advantage of this. I was really thrilled. I went online and looked at your site, and it's phenomenal.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. It's the federalsavingsbank.com, and just look for my name, Mike, and then Gulyas, Gulyas. Or again, you can call me direct at 312-738-8464. Again, that's 312-738-8464.
Okay, yeah. Well, they're starting to give me a red flag. We're running out of time, but I really want to have you back on again. I think you may be doing a segment coming up down the road that's going to be phenomenal for people to understand their financial situations in this world, which unfortunately, a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They don't do a will. They don't, do things that really give their families problems with probate and all those kinds of things with property. And so we try to get some financial advice on the show as well for, for veterans, for for them to make sure that they're paying attention, as life goes along. And, the red flag reminded me of, the Eagles coming into the game. It was brutal.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure. And I would love to talk with you again about anything related to housing finance. Would be great.
Okay, great, great. Thank you, Mike, for your time, and it has been an absolute honor and pleasure. And thank you for what you're doing for veterans. It means a critical thing to me. If anyone should be able to put their head down on a pillow in a home and feel that they are safe and protected, and their family is someone who served overseas in combat, who came back home, and needs that to happen. So thank you for what you do for our veterans.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Arnold. It's been a pleasure.